Tonight we are at a haunted castle. There is a legend that a bard is heard singing at this old castle. I do love castles, and I hope that you do too. This place has a ton of history and has had more than one use throughout its lifetime, from being a hunting lodge and a castle, as well as being in a siege. But without further ado, let's get into the video. I am so excited. I am on my way to Odiham Castle, and I am going to meet Dave and Richard for a nighttime investigation, and I am so pumped about this. I've got plenty of trigger objects. I've got some really cool things planned. So stay tuned and let's get going on this road trip. Right, so I've got here early, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some shots and have some food while I'm waiting for Rich and Dave to come, and then we will get started. So I'm very excited about this, and hopefully it will be a good one. Odiham Castle, also known as King John's Castle. This is an old castle that was built in the 12th century and built by King John, and it was in use up until the mid 16th century. It is made out of flint, lime mortar and timber. It is one of only 3 fortresses that was built by King John during his reign. The site was probably chosen by him because he visited the area in 1204, and because it lay strategically halfway between Windsor and Winchester. Odiham Castle was built on 20 acres of land, acquired by the local lord called Robert the Parker. The castle, which took 7 years to complete, had a 3-story stone keep. It had a moat and an outer square moat, as well as 2 moated baileys. It also had a stronghold, which was called Dominus Regus, also known as the King's House, and this is where he would stay. In 1215, it was from either Odiham or Windsor that King John rode out to Runnymede to sign and seal the Magna Carta. A year later, Odiham Castle was captured by the French in what was called the First Barons' War in 1216. However, a garrison of just 13 people surrendered on the 9th of July 1216. At some point over the next 9 years, the keep was renovated, possibly because of the damage done by the French forces. It has been suggested at this time the mound which the keep sat on was raised by 5 meters, and the inner moat that surrounded the keep was then added as another defence. However, this is not really known, and actually the inner moat could have been in place before the siege. In 1238, a man called Simon de Montfort married King John's daughter, named Eleanor. Just 2 years after she'd been granted Odiham by her brother, King Henry III, in the following year a kitchen then was added on a bridge over the inner moat, and a new hall was added on the outside of the keep. During the same period, a second building then was constructed over the moat as an extra living space. But in 1263, de Montfort rebelled against Henry and died at the Battle of Evesham in 1265, and Eleanor was then exiled to France. Odiham Castle was again retained by the crown. The castle was also involved in a rebellion led by the powerful Despencer family against Roger Mortimer and Queen Isabella of France, who was the wife of Edward II. Odiham Castle also hosted a parliament at least once in its lifetime in 1303. By the 15th century, Odiham was used only as a hunting lodge, and in 1605 it was then described as a ruin. In 1792, the Basingstoke Canal was built through the southern corner of the bailey. The Battle of Neville's Cross took place on Tuesday the 17th of October in 1346. What started this was the Scottish alliance with France at the time. And Edward III, King Edward III, was currently campaigning to try and take back Calais in the 100-Year War. And there was a bitter feud between France and England at this point. So David Bruce, the Scottish king, was basically a distraction in this. And so he marched down with an army and they clashed on Crossgate Moor. And because King David had a larger force, he was confident that the best part of the English army was in France, still besieging the fort of Calais. But this is where he underestimated the English and underestimated Edward III, because Edward III had actually foreseen this and was ready, and they fought just outside of Durham with a decisive battle, which actually the English won. On the events of the morning of the 17th would have begun very early for both sides. At the same time, the English army was confessing itself at Bishop Auckland, and a large Scottish force of over 500 men was led by William Douglas and was probing southwards. Shortly after crossing the River Ware, somewhere in the vicinity of present-day Sunderland, they met the English force. The Scots were stunned because they were not expecting this, so they turned tail and headed swiftly back the way they had come, with the English then in hot pursuit. So they crossed back across the river and then were in hot pursuit, and then the Scots ended up getting unfortunately caught in the archers of the English. Overall numbers, we think, were more put that 10,000 Scots and 6,000 English, but we're not 100% sure of that. The English then actually initiated the battle, potentially having the archers harass the Scots as they basically were trying to muster together. In response, a man named John Graham offered to take 100 mounted knights forward to engage the English. It's claimed he was denied permission, so he ended up attacking by himself, which was not really a good idea because eventually he had his horse killed and then only just evaded capture. So the Scots were at a massive disadvantage now at this point, and pretty much it wasn't going well for them. Many of them were broken by this point. They were frightened because they were not at all ready. Whereas the English archers and the soldiers were pretty much very much more well equipped. They were in a better position and they were pretty much confident. Here's that there was a massive tactical error, which then meant the Scots were quickly overwhelmed and the pursuit of the routed army began. Valiantly fighting for his life, King David suffered well-documented arrow wounds, one to the face, before he was captured. Meanwhile, the mass of retreating Scots were fleeing northwards as quickly as they possibly could to try and get past the border to not get captured. The next few days proved to be an overwhelming victory for England, whose casualties were described by a prior Fawcett as few, while amongst the many Scots killed was John Randolph, perhaps the most noble of David's commanders, whose father had been a trusted lieutenant of Robert the Bruce. His death brought an end to the male line of his family. Also killed was the Earl of Strafford, Niall Bruce, David's illegitimate brother, together with many other Scottish lords and officials, including the Chancellor, Chamberlain and Constables of Scotland. As was usual at this time, the nobles were taken prisoner, and that also includes the Scottish king himself, King David. They were held for ransom, and they would often hand themselves over willingly because actually it was very comfortable. The common soldier, however, could expect a less merciful fate, and so they were taken prisoner and normally killed or beheaded. The king himself was not executed and actually stayed in England and was made capture for, sorry, not made capture, was imprisoned for 11 years. However, he actually enjoyed his time in England because he actually was treated very, very, very well, and he was said to become an Anglophile, which means someone who admires and actually ended up liking the English. So when King David was captured, he was actually taken to Odiham Castle by William Truss, and then he was then taken to Windsor Castle, and he alternated his time between the two. But in that time period of 11 years, he was thoroughly well looked after and royally entertained. Thanks, see what I did there. After 11 years of being captive, he was then released, and the ransom payments of 100,000 marks over 10 years couldn't be sustained. But he was released anyway. When he died in 1371, David left no heir and was succeeded by his nephew, Robert Stewart, who, for whatever reason, had deserted him at Neville's Cross, but would become the first Stuart dynasty destined to unite both the English and Scottish crowns. Hello and welcome to another episode of Our Ghost Reel. Today I am joined by Dave.
Hello.
And I'm joined by Rich.
Hello. Woohoo! And we are at Odiham Castle. There is not much of the castle left. However, we are very excited because we are doing a night investigation here. So we hope that you guys enjoy it. And that's it.
Let's get into
Let's get into it.
Then the bird and tree.
There was a bird over there.
Woodland around here.
There's a cricket chirping, motorway in the background.
Motorways in the background. So there's so much to be consciously aware of.
Yeah. There's a lot of background noises.
And
There
you
is.
cannot rule out human element as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
So it's just something to, before we get started, it's just something I wanted to bring up. So if you hear any noises, and we hear them, then obviously if they sound like a bird, we're going to debunk it straight away and all that kind of stuff. So
fair enough.
Just something we have to do.
Okay.
Because we are literally in the middle of nowhere. Well, we're not in the middle of nowhere, but we're in a wood, basically.
Yeah, you can hear all the birds over there at the moment.
The crows are all off to roost now, so they're
Obviously there'll be bats.
Oh yeah, bats. That's another one.
Bats will start coming out soon.
Are any of you scared of bats? Just checking.
Scared of spiders?
Yes.
Yeah, there's one on your shoulders.
Don't say no. I need to just drop the camera.
I knew you brought a spider with me just for you today.
I got a spider on my arm. There.
That's fine. That's fake. That's fine.
There is actually one on your shoulder.
What? Where? There isn't. Thanks, Dave.
Alright, and then we show. Like Richard said, we are set up. Green is just literally just about to play there.
Yep, I'm ready to go.
Just to try and charge this up.
I don't know how loud this is going to be, hopefully, because I don't. This should be connected, hopefully. There we go. Do you want me to turn it off?
If there is anybody here and you can hear this music, you come to the centre and you set off one of these spots. They watch you dance. This music's familiar to you.
Pigeon.
This music's familiar to you. Can you make that device front there? Can it go off? Or would you like me to show you?
I was going to say, maybe show them.
Just need you to go close to this. And it go off like that.
So So you don't even have to touch it if you're scared of it. And with the little cat balls, you just do exactly the same thing. You just give them a little touch and they'll light up like you did with that one over there. Does this music make you happy?
Everybody walking clockwise.
Yeah? Can you see what we're doing?
We may not be dancing, but we're trying to move with the music.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I shall curtsy to you. Thank you. Do you like what we're doing?
Is this familiar to you?
Yeah, does this look familiar?
Laptop wouldn't be setting that off, would it?
Shouldn't do.
Not at that distance, no.
No? Okay, just checking.
Not at that distance.
Interestingly as well, my camera is going from green to red on battery right now.
Has somebody arrived here?
It's
Can you make that stop? Can you make that stop? Can you make it stop?
Stop for a tiny
If you
bit.
move away from the device, it will stop. Can you move away, please?
Are you trying to tell us that you liked that? If you liked it, can you move away and we'll play it again?
Slightly skeptical. I'm going to reset it.
Yeah, I'm slightly
It's not stopping at all.
agreed. I'm slightly skeptical.
Yeah, that one stayed on.
Yeah, I think we might have to debunk that one.
Yeah, that one's staying on. Yeah, I've just turned it.
Yeah.
Right. For all of you that don't know, us walking around, I need your footage, I'm also going to need your footage for the video. Because that is going to be awesome.
I know.
Cat ball.
Cat ball going.
Oh, well, cat ball now.
Cat ball going off now.
Oh, wow.
That's great. If that's you, if you can hear us, and that's you that's making the cat
Amazing.
ball there go off, can you try and make some of the other ones go off around as well? You've done one. Perhaps you could make another one go off for us.
If you want us to play the music again, can you make one of the other cat balls go off? If you don't, then can you make that other one go off that you just made go off? Oh, I don't think it liked the music.
Didn't like music.
Was okay. Thanks for clearing that up.
Why didn't you like the music?
Also true.
We're just presuming at the moment.
That is also true. We are presuming.
So are you a spirit that resided here in the past? If you can make one of the balls flash, if the answer is yes. Are you someone who used to visit here? Again, if you can make one of the cat balls flash, just to answer our questions, if you don't mind answering our questions.
And just realised we haven't really introduced ourselves.
No.
So.
Well, let's go around the circle then. So, if there is any spirits here, my name's Richard, and on my left,
I'm Corinne. Hello.
I'm Dave.
so we're here tonight just trying to make contact with you. We're not trying to harm you or frighten you.
Might have been an animal.
I heard something there.
I did.
We're just here to see
It's a bird.
if you would like to maybe communicate with us tonight. You've already shown us that you can make our little devices here operate, so if you could do that again, if you would like to communicate with us, that would be amazing.
Motion sensitive and just be careful. Do you want us to play music again? I actually really enjoyed it.
Dave likes the medieval music.
I'd like to do it again.